Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
South Jersey's home for the Sixers and Flyers.
Yeah! He scores! A two-hand jam!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Friday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you live here in the Matt Black Kia Studios. Yes, Matt Black Kia, they want to get you approved today. Matt Black Kia on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio.
Deep right field!
Sorry about that. Hit the wrong button over here. That's a bad job by me. I was trying to hit one button, but the mouse wasn't where the mouse was supposed to be, and now we're back. Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN. Kevin McCormick will be joining us coming up at 6:20 tonight as the Sixers take on the New Orleans Pelicans. No Zion tonight. And part of the reasoning why he's not in is apparently he's got a broken finger. And the Pelicans GM came out very vocally and basically said the league doesn't officiate him properly. So that'll be interesting to see the aftermath of that, because remember in the NHL that the Rangers came out and spoke ill of the league, and they were fined $250,000. Does David Griffin get punished as a result of that? So no Zion tonight, but the Sixers still, the magic number is 4. So as long as they keep winning, they will have the number 1 seed. And we'll get into that with Kevin McCormick coming up at 6:20 tonight. If you didn't see the news over at 973ESPN.com and the 973 ESPN mobile app, you would have had your alerts set on your free 97.3 ESPN mobile app on your Android or Apple device. The Eagles seem to be taking their concept of competition literally. They drafted a running back in the NFL draft last weekend, and this week on waivers, they claimed Kerryon Johnson. Now, this feels like a very, very interesting situation the Eagles are putting you in, because what they're basically looks like they're going to do is they're basically having open season at the running back position, which in of itself is smart, but I have some questions, and they start with this. Number one, I understand you always want to open for the possibility of different things to happen. You never want to deny an opportunity. But am I the only one who looks at Kerryon Johnson and I just see more medical red flags? I understand the guy was available for almost the entire year last year, but his first 2 years in the NFL, he only played 18 games out of a potential 32. So am I just supposed to assume that he's all good and ready to go? I don't know. You know, former Eagles running back coach Deuce Staley is now with the Detroit Lions. So Detroit last year drafted DeAndre Swift, who basically took his job, even though Kerryon led Detroit in rushing for 2 straight seasons. And I'm just having trouble wrapping my head around this idea that you look at Kerryon, and I'm just kind of wondering, this feels like the Eagles are just kind of throwing darts at the board when it comes to the running back situation. I think we all agree that Miles Sanders is the starting Eagles running back. Now, whether he plays all 3 downs or not, that's up for debate. But you're now looking at 8 running backs. Yes, there are currently 8 running backs who are listed as Eagles. So after grabbing Kerryon Johnson, you also have Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, who just a month ago you re-signed him to a 1-year contract. Don't forget you have futures contracts with Elijah Holyfield, Jason Huntley, and Adrian Killens. And as I mentioned, you drafted Memphis running back Kenneth Gainwell. You're not keeping all those running backs. And to me, this comes down to Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, Kerryon Johnson, and Kenneth Gainwell. So 4 guys basically playing for probably 2 or 3 slots. Maximum 3 spots, minimum 2. And the reason I say maximum is because I think Huntley performed so below average. I mean, almost poorly last year when he got on the field. That I think that his job is, he's pretty much just write him off. I mean, some of these guys are just here for the preseason. But I think that for Kerryon Johnson, he has an opportunity to compete because Nick Sirianni wants to have competition. I just don't have a lot of confidence that Kerryon is a guy that you can trust to stay healthy. So if you're the Eagles and Kerryon Johnson might make your team, you might want to keep another guy in waiting, which is why I think Gainwell, to me, Gainwell is going to be a guy that I think makes the roster. If you had to ask me right now who makes this team, it's Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell. Everybody else, I'm not sure about a running back because Boston Scott and Kerryon Johnson can both do similar things, but Kerryon is bigger and stronger than Boston Scott is. Kerryon can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's just not as diminutive height-wise as Boston Scott. Now, Kerryon's had more injuries than Boston Scott has, so you got to think about that as well. Jordan Howard's a bowling ball running back. Do you want a power back in there, or do you ask Kerryon to be that guy? Again, Kerryon was the Lions' leading rusher his first 2 years in the NFL, and that's with all the injury and the games that he missed. The guy is a talent. Let's not ignore that. He was a second-round pick for a reason. He was the main running back at Auburn for a year and a half. This guy is a solid athlete. He's an above-average talent in the NFL. And when he's gone, he's really good. And you know what? If he's healthy and Miles Sanders goes down, and maybe you're not 100% sure about Kenneth Gainwell as a rookie, maybe Kerryon makes sense there. I'm very interested to see how this position plays out because whoever's backing up Miles Sanders is going to get playing time. We know that in Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen, the new Eagles offense coordinator's offenses, they have a history of alternating running backs. Remember, Melvin Gordon didn't get every snap with the Chargers. They had guys like Danny Woodhead and Austin Eckler out there. Over there with the Indianapolis Colts, it was Naheem Hines. It was Wilkins, Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack. They had a plethora of running backs back there getting touches, getting opportunities. So I don't expect Nick Sirianni or Shane Steichen to be, we have one running back and that's it. I think they're going to say we're going to have a guy who's our primary back, our number one back, and then we're going to have a group of guys, whether it's 2 or 3 behind Miles Sanders, who are going to be a part of the action. And I think that Kerryon has a chance to be that guy. I'm just a little wary of the injury history. But you can't deny the talent. And if I had to say there are 4 guys who make this team coming out of camp, Sanders, Gainwell, if all things are equal and everyone's healthy, Johnson, and then it's a coin flip between Scott and Howard. That's how I project it right now. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. The Eagles always find a way to stay in the news. You know, I'm just having an easygoing day, just cruising through the day, and then boom! Eagles are like, oh, we're going to make news. We're going to make headlines. We don't care the Sixers are playing the Pelicans tonight. We're going to get back in the news cycle. They always love to do it around like 4 o'clock in the afternoon to the Eagles. Almost never do they make these announcements at like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or It's always later in the day. That's the Eagles for you. Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers back in action tonight, taking on the Pelicans. Of course, we have Kevin McCormick joining us in about 10 minutes from now. Text board is open at 609-403-0973 to get on the conversation. If you're listening on your radio or on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, 609-403-0973. If you are watching the show on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can get in on the conversation. Just jump in the comment section below as you watch the show here on 97.3 ESPN, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I mentioned this before at the top of the show about this situation. So Zion Williamson is not playing tonight, and apparently he has a broken finger. And the New Orleans Pelicans GM, David Griffin, is saying that, it's a fairly significant injury because it's on Zion's left hand. And here's the quote that's making the rounds here about the Pelicans. David Griffin says, quote, "I'm really frustrated because this was unavoidable. We told the NBA through every means available to us, through sending in film, through speaking to everybody in the officials department, everybody in basketball operations, that the way they were officiating Zion was going to get him injured. Quite frankly, he's injured now because of the open season there's been on Zion Williamson in the paint. He's been absolutely mauled in the paint on a regular basis." David Griffin goes on to say, players are being told by the officials indirectly, I'm going to keep doing this because they don't call it. There's more violence and courage in the paint against Zion than any player I've seen since Shaq. That's David Griffin, the general manager of the New Orleans Pelicans. My first instinct is to wonder, didn't the Rangers speak out against the league and they got fined for it? Does David Griffin get fined? He's got to, right? I mean, this feels like a direct shot from David Griffin at the league. Now, what this also probably is Griffin's frustration about the fact that his star player now is going to be out an indefinite amount of time for a team that is currently on the outside looking in when it comes to the play-in tournament. The Pelicans are 2.5 games behind the Spurs. And if they lose a couple more games, they're mathematically eliminated altogether. And I think it's fair to say they're not going to win tonight because the only hope that they had of competing with the Sixers tonight in Philadelphia, by the way, was if Zion was on the floor. Now it's Ben Simmons mano-a-mano with his draft classmate, Brandon Ingram. He gets to look Brandon Ingram in the face and tell him, try me for about 4 quarters. Good luck with that. You think Brandon Ingram's going to have an easy night tonight? All of Ben Simmons' focus now can go to him. Because Ben Simmons is not going to be hyper-focused on Lonzo Ball. That's for sure. Joel Embiid, I mean, he's got to deal with what he usually deals with. But I understand where David Griffin's coming from, this idea that, officials do officiate different players differently based on a variety of things. But man, that is a bold statement to come out and basically attack the league like that. And basically blame them for your player getting injured. That takes some serious spinal strength, to say the least. I hope David Griffin's ready to give up some money. Woo! That's why Zion's not playing tonight. It's a broken finger they claim is from a hard foul in their last game for the Pelicans. So Pelicans, no Zion Williamson tonight as they take on the 76ers. Tom McGinnis on the call, top of the hour, right here on your home for Sixers basketball, 97.3 ESPN. Of course, the Sixers are actually going to be in the playoffs, unlike the Pelicans. Listen, selfishly, I'm happy the Pelicans are not making the postseason. And I never want to see a player get hurt, so I'm not happy to see Zion get hurt. But I just think the Pelicans are overrated. they're exaggerated. Everyone acts like they're this great team. They're an okay team. They're fine. They're fun to watch for short spurts of time until they have a horrible turnover or a horrible defensive possession when Zion is playing albatross defense. For as great of a physical force of nature that Zion is on the offensive end, he doesn't play that much defense at all. And Stan Van Gundy is supposed to be this guy with a great defensive background and about basketball fundamentals and all this stuff. His team does not play good fundamental basketball at all. So, I don't know. I'm glad that we don't have bad basketball getting to the postseason. I don't care how big of a star Zion is. Listen, maybe this team is just too young. Maybe they're just not where they need to be in their development to be able to handle being in the playoffs anyway. I'm not saying the Spurs would be that much better, but the Spurs turn the ball over a lot less than the Pelicans do. And John Morant plays way better, full court, well-rounded basketball than Zion does. I also enjoy watching John Morant play more because John Morant's style of basketball is much more aesthetically pleasing to me. He attempts to play defense. He's just a speed runner down the lane. He's electric. He's exciting. You know what Zion does? He does highlight plays. How many games does he actually win with those highlights? But as I said, I never wish a guy gets injured. So, all right, we'll get to the Sixers on the court coming up next. Kevin McCormick live from the center will be joining us next here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you. Don't forget, a little bit later in the show, I'll give you my FanDuel Sportsbook picks for the evening and the weekend here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig live in the Matt Black Kia Studios on 97.3 ESPN. Matt Black Kia, they're going to get you approved today. Matt Black Kia on the Black Horse Bike in Egg Harbor Township. Visit them online at mattblackkia.com.
Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio.
Deep right field, and this game is tied. Wow, monster home run from Harper.
Bryce Harper and the Phillies begin a 9-game road trip in Atlanta when they face Ronald Acuna Jr. and the Braves.
It's gone. Ronald Acuna Jr. with a bomb to straightaway center field.
This is the play-by-play home of Sunday Night Baseball, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM. Coverage begins at 6 p.m.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot, but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
If you're an athlete or live an active lifestyle, aches and pains can be part of the game. That's where Trifecta Therapeutic comes into play. Trifecta Therapeutics is a premier sports rehabilitation physical therapy center located centrally for anyone in South Jersey, right in Glassboro. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a finely tuned athlete, they treat the pros and the Joes. No script needed. To schedule your free discovery session, use code ESPN Radio at trifectatherapeutics.com or call today.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers taking on the Pelicans minus Zion tonight. So no Zion for all of you who are casual basketball watchers and only watch certain players play in the NBA because you don't really appreciate real basketball. But you get to watch some real basketball from the Sixers tonight. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, the whole crew is out there. Well, Joel Embiid was a game-time decision. We'll find out the full details about that from Kevin McCormick right now. Joining us live from the center right here on the Boardwalk kind of hotline here on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers, Pelicans here on 97.3 ESPN. And joining us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter is the aforementioned Kevin McCormick. Kevin, how you doing today?
Josh, I almost just had to hang up on the call because you said only casuals wanted to see Zion Williamson. And I have to admit, when I got up today, I was a little excited because I got to come down here and see Zion in person. So apparently I've now labeled casual onto my forehead, but listen, I'm feeling good. I'm good nonetheless.
I will clarify my statement for the satisfaction of Kevin McCormick, okay? The people who the only thing that they know about the NBA when they watch the league are star players like Zion Williamson.
Okay, I can respect that. I'm glad that you did that for the sake of my feelings because I was a little hurt at the top of that.
Listen, it wasn't a shot. Listen, I don't hate Zion. I just don't like the hype around him, okay? To me, I feel like there are people who look at him and they think that he's so amazing. I find that those are the same people who don't appreciate legitimate real basketball. Not you, but people who are like the casual. They see a name on the marquee and they go and watch said show, movie, or game.
Tonight it must be just like a dreadful matchup for you. Did you even want to get out of bed today? Sixers are facing a superstar that you think is getting handed too much and are coached by a guy that you think is just blatantly overrated. So
listen, I woke up.
Is it just a misery loves company thing today with you?
Oh my goodness, Kevin! I always appreciate the back and forth with you. I always appreciate you calling me on my you know what. But yeah, no Zion tonight, so I expect Ben Simmons to look Brandon Ingram square in the eye and said, "Come get some" in this game tonight.
Well, Brandon Ingram is out tonight as well. This is a very depleted New Orleans Pelicans squad. So even before the Zion news came out, Brandon Ingram's out, I believe, with a left ankle sprain. They have no Josh Hart as well, who's another rotation piece. And I heard earlier that Steven Adams isn't going tonight. So this is a very, very depleted Pelicans squad who is without their top two players in Zion and Ingram.
So basically nobody's playing except for Lonzo tonight for the Pelicans?
Still have Lonzo Ball. They still have Eric Bledsoe.
Right. Yep.
Who Kyra Lewis Jr., rookie out of Alabama, who had a lot of fire. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of their end of the bench guys. But I would say the biggest name they have going tonight is Lonzo Ball.
All right, so the Sixers win by 20 tonight. Got it. All right, thanks, Kevin, for joining us. Listen, it's important the Sixers win because that magic number is still 4. You know, the Nets keep losing. The Sixers have a chance. This is an important game, not because of who the opponent is, but because of the Sixers need to keep winning to lock up that number 1 seed.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. Although these past few matchups, and it looks like the rest of the season is going to go very just lackluster matchups with the way their scheduling is and facing a lot of teams that don't have a lot to compete for at this point in the year. It's actually something I recently just wrote about for 97.3 ESPN is that the Sixers have a clear runway to the playoffs, and it's not many years where a team like this who has deep playoff aspirations has such a light schedule at the end of the year that they really need to make the most of this opportunity. Like you said, the number 1 seed is still not intact. Brooklyn could still potentially come and, overcome them. Milwaukee's still right on their heels as well. Granted, the Sixers are in a very prime position to lock up this 1 seed, but they need to remain focused. They have a lot of easy matchups along the way. They need to just go in, take care of business, have some what Doc Rivers likes to call old school load management, to where you can head into the playoffs crossing off all your boxes of finishing at the top seed. You're fully healthy and have guys more than well rested with all these blowout victories, and you have a lot of momentum. I mean, the Sixers could potentially, with 6 games left, end the year on a 12-game win streak. It would draw a lot of comparison to the 2017-2018 season where Ben Simmons led the group to a 16-game win streak to end the regular season.
Kevin McCormick joining us live from the center here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, Kevin MCC NBA on Twitter for all your Sixers and NBA coverage. Of course, he joins us from the center, Sixers Pelicans tonight. Tom McGinnis on the call, 7 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN. Kevin, I was talking with Ben Golliver last night, and he brought up a very good point that, with the change in the NBA's rules for all NBA team, there's a possibility that Embiid's probably not getting the MVP. There's a strong possibility he could be first team all NBA. Is that a fair enough consolation prize for Joel Embiid, considering the phenomenal year he's having, to be one of the 5 guys named to the first team all NBA?
I think it would be a nice recognition and something that he would take humbly, just because that's kind of just who he is. He even said it when he was named to the All-Star team. It's something that he takes pride in. So I think it's something that he would take, but I would say the real consolation prize for him would be a finals MVP after missing out on that regular season MVP. So although, accolades like All-NBA are very nice, and he definitely is deserving, there's no doubt that Joel Embiid has been, if not one of the best 5 players in the league this year, but the goal still remains of hoisting that championship trophy and being the last team standing.
I also think about Joel Embiid, and listen, he's my MVP, but I understand. I don't have a vote in this. I don't have to say, Kevin, but I do believe that, Joel Embiid has proven himself to be one of the best players in the league. And the fact, as I wrote on the website here at 973ESPN.com, listen, he's put himself in that conversation. We talk about the best players in the game right now, the guy that you want to quote unquote draft to start your team. He's on that short list of guys now. And I think that that's significant for a guy at 27 years old entering the prime of his career, because we can say that about him. He's in Philadelphia and he's not on some other team.
Listen, I mean, there's no denying, knee injury or not, when Joel Embiid is on the floor, there are very few more unguardable players in this league. He's without a doubt the best center in the league. No discredit to Nikola Jokic, although the only thing that really bugs me with the MVP thing is, no disrespect, obviously, like I've said time and time again, no disrespect to Nikola Jokic. His season has been incredible, but the only thing that bugs me is the narrative that's being driven is he's pretty much being handed it as almost an attendance award because he hasn't been able to get hurt. I'm okay with Nikola Jokic winning the MVP, but the narrative needs to be changed to what he's done for Denver this season and his individual statistics alone, because I feel like as they keep building on the narrative of superstars have been hurt, this and that, it opens the door to, if that's the only reason he won, why shouldn't it have been handed to another player? Because although Joel Embiid's missed 18 games, if you look at the sample of work that he's done this season, if he was on the floor, he was going to be that just unstoppable dominant player. It wasn't like he just had one nice month in the year and that spiked his stats and then he got injured. I mean, every night that Joel Embiid's been on the floor has been arguably the best player.
The other part of that is, and I'm with you, listen, it feels like, you survived, you survived the regular season.
Exactly.
But also, Jokic, people forget about the fact that Embiid, he didn't miss all those games because of injuries. He missed some of them because of COVID protocols. So, Kevin, how can I hold it against the guy who was literally missed time because of unique circumstances that were completely out of his control?
Something I've said to you on here before, when the end of the season rolls around and they discuss the missed games aspect in Joel Embiid's MVP case, games that he missed due to health and safety protocol should not be held against him because, like you said, they were out of his control. So if we're only talking games missed, he should only be held accountable for the games missed due to injury, which would be the 10 that he missed from the bone bruise and occasional rests here and there. But, I mean, it's a crazy season, and I think it definitely the view should be altered compared to other seasons, but it feels like it's just going to be one of those it is what it is kind of things.
Kevin McCormick at Kevin MCC NBA on Twitter. Sixers Pelicans tonight. You hear all the action right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Kevin with all the pre and post game covered over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Kevin, when I think about also the thing with this game today, as Joel Embiid is expected to play, I know he was a game time decision. I'm very curious about what Doc Rivers' plans are for this team beyond the regular season, because it seems like more and more that this team is probably going to be going on a matchup situation when it comes to some of these playoff rounds. And I'm going to assume that, some of these guys are going to be getting playing time based on who's on the other team. And I think that will really dictate things, because Doc has a history with the Magic, with the Celtics, with the Clippers of saying, who am I going against? Because I remember in the past, Glenn Big Baby Davis in Boston would get a ton of minutes depending on who the big men were on the other side in the series. And I remember in the Cavs series, they would throw basically the kitchen sink at LeBron when it was the big three up there in Boston, and that would slow him down, whereas Doc wouldn't do that in other series. Some series he would go 8 deep, but against LeBron he would go 12 deep to get all those bodies in there against him. So I have to think that Doc Rivers is not going to have a strict bench rotation in the postseason.
That does seem to be the case. It's something he's been asked about a lot recently with the postseason looming is, are you getting ready to trim your rotation? What's it going to look like? Do you have a set number in mind? And his answer has remained the same through it all, that he does not have a set number. He's even been quoted to say that he feels he has 11 or 12 guys that he could potentially go to when it comes to the postseason. And he's also talked about you play the hand you're dealt, in a sense of, if you have more playable guys, then you can go deeper. If you only have 7 guys that you can really trust in the playoffs, then you play 7. So I think the Sixers having a bit of a deeper roster this season, it does feel that the rotation is going to be very situationally based. A lot of players I'm looking at in that sense of 3 in particular would be Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz, and Matisse Thybulle. It feels like those are going to be the 3 guys whose minutes are going to, ebb and flow based on the situation and what the team needs at the moment. But I would say there's really only 7 locks of guys we're going to see every game, and that's going to be the starting 5, George Hill and Dwight Howard, even though Dwight Howard's going to be a very small sample, only playing when Embiid's off the floor. But the rest of the end of the bench, it's going to be very situationally based, whether it's you've seen a lot of Shake Milton one night, then maybe you see a lot of Furkan Korkmaz, Matisse Thybulle when his defense is needed, and we could potentially even see Tyrese Maxey in situations where, things are going slow and the Sixers need a bit of a spark. So I agree. It does feel that there's nothing set in stone in terms of playoff rotation, and Doc definitely does plan to kind of play chess and matchups in the playoffs.
Kevin, speaking of Doc, another thing he said recently was about Ben Simmons, and you wrote about it, and that is, this idea that people keep asking about Ben Simmons and his scoring and his jump shot and all these things. And I love the quote that Doc says is, we're focused on winning. You guys are focused on jump shots. And I think that's very symbolic of how this team views Ben Simmons. That they're saying, listen, we're going to work with what we have. We're not going to worry about what he could or should do. We're going to focus on who we have and what we have here. And we're going to win with the guy we have in front of us. Not try to turn him into something that he's not.
Since Doc Rivers has gotten here, winning has been his main priority, the only thing he cares about. He's said it time and time again. The only number that matters is the final score at the end. He doesn't care how or who the points get there. Just the points being there is what matters. So if it means one night Ben Simmons has to score, 18 to 20 points, so be it. If he's only scoring 5 points but creating 20 off his drive and kick game, then so be it. I think it's the perfect viewpoint to look at it, especially with a guy like Ben Simmons, whose game affects so much that doesn't show up in the box score. The fact of not worrying about if he's scoring 7 points one night or if he takes X amount of jump shots outside of the painted area. At the end of the day, all these guys are here to win basketball games, so that should be the primary objective.
Sixers play the Pelicans tonight, the Pistons tomorrow night, then they have a couple of days off before they take on the Pacers, then the Heat, and they finish off this season with the Magic. The Magic number, speaking of, is 4. Kevin, will they get those 4 in before the Magic series? Yes or no?
I say yes.
All right, there you have it. Kevin McCormick has here on GameNight on 97.3 ESPN at Kevin MCC NBA on Twitter. Kevin, one more thing before I let you go. I want to know from you as the NBA season winds down, how do you feel about the Sixers' chances at being in the NBA Finals? If you could put a percentage on it, being objective, how do you feel about it?
Objectively saying, I would have to say they have at least a 40% chance. There's really three teams that I see coming out of the East of the Sixers, Milwaukee, and Brooklyn. And I think if you're looking at all those matchups, there's really only one team that could potentially match up and, have the edge against the other two, and it's the Sixers. I mean, Brooklyn has all that firepower. They have the offensive firepower, but they don't have anybody to defend Joel Embiid. Meanwhile, the Sixers have their own firepower and also have a defensive unit that can potentially slow down that Brooklyn three. So I would say around that 40% range of them representing the East in this finals.
All right, that's a little less than I would have said. I would have said 50%, but that's just me. So Kevin McCormick being much more objective than I am at Kevin MCC NBA. And as all guests, he appeared on the Boardwalk kind of hotline. Kevin, enjoy the game. Have a good weekend. I'll catch you for the next week.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Have a good night.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers coverage on 97.3 ESPN being brought to you by Trifecta Therapeutics in Glassboro, South Jersey's premier sport rehabilitation and physical therapy center. Treating the pros and the Joes. Visit them online at trifectatherapeutics.com. We'll check in with you guys have to say. The text board is open at 609-403-0973. Also, if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can comment on the show as well. On the feed, you can drop your comments on right here on 97.3 ESPN Game Night with yours truly, Josh Hennig, here on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers at a running back. The Eagles at a running back. Sixers back in action tonight versus the Pelicans. Also, Phillies had a 4-game sweep. They lead the NL East, take on the Dodgers this weekend. So the Braves this weekend. A lot to get to. And, of course, we will get to my FanDuel Sportsbook pick of the night next here on 97.3 ESPN FM.
It's Sixers basketball tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Here's Seth for three, and that's good. Curry is 6 for 6 from three.
The Sixers host the New Orleans Pelicans.
Tonight, coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
If you're an athlete or live an active lifestyle, aches and pains can be part of the game. That's where Trifecta Therapeutics comes into play. Trifecta Therapeutics is a premier sports rehabilitation physical therapy center located centrally for anyone in South Jersey, right in Glassboro. Their team of the highest skilled docs takes a unique approach to physical therapy and rehab, whether you're a weekend warrior or a finely tuned athlete. They treat the pros and the Joes. To find out more about Trifecta Therapeutics and how they can help you, check out trifectatherapeutics.com.
to Matt Blatt Kia and put 0 down. A hit with 0% APR financing. That's deep for 75 months. A home run. Don't get fooled by a bad pitch. Matt Blatt Kia in Toms River and Egg Harbor Township needs your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. So get out of that old car you hate and get the credit you deserve with 0 down payment and 0% APR financing available for up to 75 months on every new 2021 Kia Sportage in stock, or get a $2,500 consumer rebate only at Matt Blatt Kia. We want to get you approved today, and you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy. Come in today or visit us online because
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
offers with approved Tier 1 or 2 credit for PM Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on $13.33 per 1,000 borrowed. Negative equity refinance into new loan. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, we are back here. Final segment of the week, final segment of the show. And you can comment on the text board at 609-403-0973. Also, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show here on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, Game Night being brought to you by my friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. One of the things I love about betting basketball is I'm always finding new player props and game props that I like, and I can combine them together into what is known as a same game parlay. Get an even bigger payout every single day. Yes, same game parlays are only available on FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether you are new to FanDuel Sportsbook or use FanDuel every day, you should check out NBA same game parlays daily. Same game parlays are just one reason why I use FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. Their app is simple to use with exclusive always-on promotions and different deposit options, so you know your deposits are safe. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app right now and use my promo code Hennig when you sign up. New users get a first bet risk-free up to $1,000. That's right, promo code Hennig when you sign up, and your first bet is risk-free up to $1,000. Just place the bet and FanDuel will refund you up to $1,000 back in site credit if you don't win. That's promo code Hennig with FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 or to play in present NJRPA. First online real money wager only for risk-free bet. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So, Sixers are in action tonight. And I'm not kidding. I think they're going to win by a lot. So, if you're going to do a same game parlay tonight for the Sixers, here's what I would do if I were you. I would take the Sixers on the spread. That's 11.5 points right now. Then I would go down the list of different parlays, because they have a ridiculous amount of parlays on this thing. The big number that stands out to me tonight when it comes to the parlays is this. You know how I've told you guys about the stat where if certain players get certain numbers, the Sixers have a certain amount of success, right? Well, one of those numbers is Tobias Harris in the rebounds. The over-under right now is 6.5. And with so many players out for the Pelicans, I would throw that over 6.5 into your same game parlay. And just to make sure you keep the value, keep the Sixers on the money line. So Sixers money line combined with the more than 11.5 for the Sixers, along with Tobias Harris over 6.5 rebounds. That's a plus 243 same game parlay, which means $10 will net you over 24 tonight. Also, UFC fights back in action tomorrow. Michelle Waterson versus Marina Rodriguez. This is a great opportunity for you. I've been telling you guys for weeks. You got to find value when it comes to if you're going to lay your money on a wager. Okay, this is not about getting picks. This is about helping you understand. Michelle Waterson is a plus 180 underdog versus Marina Rodriguez tomorrow night. Now, the reason why I'm leaning toward Michelle Waterson is because, number one, don't judge her record so harshly. I know that Marina Rodriguez only has 1 loss and Michelle Waterson has 8 in her career. But Waterson, all of her losses, okay, since 2015, all right? So that is a almost 6.5-year sample size. So that is a period in which she has 4 losses, all right? She has 4 losses since 2015. And they are all to women who have either been champions or number 1 contenders in mixed martial arts. Her losses are to Rose Namajunas, who is the current women's flyweight champion, Tisha Torres, former number 1 contender at flyweight, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, former champion, Carla Esparza, former champion. And 3 of those 4 losses are all by decisions. Only one of them was a finish, and that was by arguably the best woman on the planet right now, Rose Namajunas at flyweight. So she's a very competitive, very aggressive, very talented fighter. She's going against a woman who has only fought 1 of those kinds of women and won. She beat Tisha Torres by decision. Michelle Waterson lost to Tisha Torres by decision. Another similar fighter, they both lost to Carla Esparza. So is Marina Rodriguez really that much better than Michelle Waterson for Michelle Waterson to be a plus 180 underdog and Marina Rodriguez to be a minus 215 favorite? Also, this fight was scheduled on very, very short notice. And there's one woman in this fight who arguably is the best conditioned of the two, and that's Michelle. And I understand this fight is being fought at a higher weight class. So neither woman has to cut all the way down to 115. It's being fought at 125. Michelle Waterson just got done doing a very extreme athletic achievement. She did the 4x4x48. So this is a training program developed by someone who used to be the Navy SEALs. And it's where you have to run 4 miles 4 separate times in a 48-hour period. So Michelle Waterson didn't just train for this. She accomplished it recently. So her conditioning right now is arguably at a very, very high level. And Marina Rodriguez, on the other hand, all she can say is, well, she had a win back in January. And now she's fighting on short notice. Michelle Waterson is much more rested up when it comes to the fight cage. She's in great condition, and this is a 5-round fight. Give me the fighter who is in great condition. Give me the fighter who knows exactly what's going to be asked of her in the fight. Give me the fighter, Michelle Waterson, who has fought the tougher competition in her career and doesn't have a bloated 13-1 record. And then listen, I don't blame Marina Rodriguez, all right? She had to build a reputation just like Michelle did. But Michelle Waterson has been fighting in women's MMA for almost 30 fights now. She's been in the game since 2007. I'll take the experience. I'll take the conditioned fighter. I'll take the former champion fighter. Invicta champion was Michelle Waterson. Give me her over the inexperienced woman. I'm taking the underdog at plus 180. And just for mathematical purposes, $10 wager will net you $18, which means you walk away with 28. So Michelle Waterson is the pick for the UFC fights tomorrow night. Those are your FanDuel Sportsbook picks of the weekend. I gave you a same game parlay with the NBA. I gave you a UFC pick for tomorrow night. And of course, that's promo code Hennig when you sign up with FanDuel Sportsbook. If you're a new user, again, first bet risk-free up to $1,000. So if you're new to FanDuel Sportsbook and you want to throw some shekels on Michelle Waterson, that could be your first bet risk-free. You can throw as much money as you want on there and you will get your bet back risk-free up to $1,000. So it's a win-win either way with the fight tomorrow night. And again, that's promo code Hennig on FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 or to play. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Let's get back to things on the field, on the court, and everything else. I do want to hit on a couple things before we got out of here. First of all, as I mentioned to Kevin McCormick, I wrote about this over at 97.3 ESPN.com, and that is there's a chance now that Joel Embiid can make the All-NBA team, first team, along with Nikola Jokic. And the way this works is, as I wrote about this full detail, 97.3 ESPN.com, or if you have the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, you already have gotten an alert about this story on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. I have 2 alerts on my phone right now. So if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can see that I'm showing you on the screen right there. And I ask, how can Joel Embiid make the NBA all first team? Well, if you go to the article on 97.3 ESPN.com, you'll understand that the NBA has changed their stipulations for voting. So Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic are both designated as forward/centers now. So it's similar to the All-Star game where it's like back court, front court. They're not really doing it by specific position anymore. And so Nikola Jokic, who is expected to be the MVP just by case of process of elimination for some voters, and because some people just don't like Embiid, but they can still vote for Embiid to be first team All-NBA. So your first team All-NBA could theoretically be Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, Steph Curry, and I don't know who you want to make the fifth one. That it's up for debate. But the point is that you can go a bunch of different ways with your first team All-NBA, but there's a way that you can get Embiid on there, and you can still recognize his phenomenal season. Joel Embiid has had an amazing season. Like it's really, really underplayed by a lot of people. Joel Embiid is arguably having an historic season when it comes to statistics. Joel Embiid is doing things that Jokic is not doing defensively. He is doing things on both ends of the floor, and while Jokic is arguably the best passing big man of all time, and he's amazing to watch on the offensive end, he gives effort on defense, but he's just not good enough. Joel Embiid has the 4th best defensive rating in the NBA. Joel Embiid is 2nd in player efficiency this year. He is 3rd in the NBA in points per game, 10th in the league in rebounds per game. That sounds like a resume that if you're not going to be league MVP, you shouldn't be All-NBA second team. That's an NBA first team superstar kind of production going on there. So hopefully Embiid gets the recognition he deserves. For more details, go to 973ESPN.com or make sure you download the 973 ESPN mobile app for all your Sixers, Phillies, Flyers, Eagles, high school sports, and more coverage right there at 973ESPN.com and the 973 ESPN mobile app. Don't forget, Zion Williamson will not play tonight. No Brandon Ingram tonight. No Steven Adams. So basically, it's the Sixers trying to cover the 11.5, and that's what we're all looking for tonight. Again, I say that a bit tongue-in-cheek. I don't mean that literally. That's a little ridiculous. I know. You gotta laugh sometimes. You gotta have a little fun with this stuff, okay? There's a reason why we put the gambling problem called 100 Gambler thing at the end of the disclaimer when we talk about sports gambling, because the idea that you can't take this stuff too seriously. We're not sitting here and putting the mortgage or anything on these things. We're just having conversations about them and the percentages and the odds of how these things do and don't work. Josh Hennig here on GameNight on 97.3 ESPN. I'll be back on tomorrow for Sports Bash Saturday. Andy McNamara will join us at 12:20 tomorrow. Billy Schweib in the locker room, 10 a.m. in the noon. I'll be on at noon right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Have a great night.
Hey, South Jersey, be sure to tune in to the Locker Room with me, Billy Schwein. Saturday, Scott McKay and I will talk with Eagles linebacker Sean Bradley about his first year with the Birds in the 2021 draft, the Phils' 4-game sweep of the Brewers, and the Sixers' 6-game win streak. What does it mean? Sunday, Mike Gill sits in with me to review the week in sports. Baseball has seen 3 no-hitters this year. We'll talk with former Phillies pitcher Randy Lurch about that and his autobiography, God in the Bullpen. All the action starts every Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.